but we have no idea.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new season of the 9 Years podcast, which unfortunately this season, due to an off-qual algorithm, has been downgraded to the 8 Years podcast. But nonetheless, we are back. I am Nick Draper. I am joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins, and we will later be joined by comedian and Wimbledon fan Geoff Norcott. But that's not all, as we will be discussing how the squad is shaping up for the new season, and I have a brand new game to test Stu's grey matter with. But before all that, we have an exciting announcement to kick off the new season. We thought that in this time, unprecedented as people keep saying it is, which really isn't, time of pandemic and global recession, and possibly the worst recession this country has seen in over a century, we thought, what a good time to try and get people to open their wallets and give us a little bit of money. So we have started our own Patreon. We are now on Patreon with exclusive bonus content for just £5 a month. And that is up and running as you are listening to this. So you can go to patreon.com/9YRS podcast now. Sign up. There is an exclusive bonus interview podcast thing with our new striker Ollie Palmer waiting for you as soon as you sign up, and there'll be more content going on there every single month. You'll see the full list of benefits when you have a look. Now, as I've said, I know this is hard times, difficult times for a lot of people. Economy, we're not sure what's going on. We appreciate that totally. You'll be wondering, why have you decided to do this now? Well, the simple reason that we've done this now is to make sure that we can keep providing this weekly podcast free every single week. So by having that money coming in through the Patreon, that helps pay for bandwidth and website space and equipment and all those sorts of things. Now, the beautiful thing about this is that we have got a new anonymous podcast general manager who gave us a very, very generous donation before we launched the Patreon, which actually means a lot of our equipment we've been able to purchase already. Why is that good? Why am I telling you this? Because it means that more of our profits from our Patreon, so any money that we keep after we've paid off our monthly bills, we will be finding a way to donate to the club. So it's all going to AFC Wimbledon at the end of the day. So we'd be very appreciative if you would like to have a look at Patreon, just see what's on offer, see if you'd like to sign up. If you sign up before September the 1st, don't worry, you won't get charged twice, because Patreon takes their bills on the 1st of every month, but we've paused that for September. So if you sign up before September, you won't be billed again until the 1st of October. So you get a few extra days for your first £5. And also, you will get your very own, as a benefit for becoming a patron of the 9 Years podcast, you'll get your very own podcast squad number. Anything you want between the numbers 1 and 99 to start off with. Stu, we've already stolen our squad numbers though, haven't we? We've got in early and got our own squad numbers. What number did you choose?
Of course, it's a perk to the job, isn't it? We should have the first pick. So, of course, I've gone for the number that we should have retired, to be honest with you, but I've gone for the number that is number 33.
And why is that?
Well, I'd love to say it's because of Cam O'Reilly. However, it's not. It's because of someone who's, to be fair, took a lot of flack in the pandemic, but it's Lyle Taylor, who's gone off to Nottingham Forest now. So, yes, that's my number.
So we are less than 5 minutes into the podcast, to the season, and you've already mentioned Lyle Taylor. Getting it in early this season. You know which number I chose, Stu?
I don't know. Would it be something like to do with your age?
Well, you're one step ahead of me. Can you believe it? It's almost as if you knew. Yes, I have gone for number 26 because that is my age. Anything you'd like to add about the Patreon, Stu, before we carry on?
Yeah, look, I think you summed it up really well in the introduction. It's something we've been looking at for a little while. We love doing the free podcast, and we want to keep it free. We don't want to put everything behind a paywall, but we do have some really exciting stuff. And anyone that sort of listened to our lockdown stuff, we have a lot of the players. So we've got Ollie Palmer. We've got quite a few more as well. So for the first month, you're going to really be spoiled on that side of it. But we've got loads of interviews. And it's really just paying for our time. To be honest with you, we don't ask for anything for it, and we will donate it back to the club. And we will be very transparent with that. We'll tell you exactly what we're doing with it, and we've got loads of good ideas actually to purchase things So the club will benefit out of it as well. So really looking forward to it. It does mean, though, we have to be professional now, Nick, doesn't it? Which I don't really think I can do that. So
no, you can't.
You might be paying for me to be talking to you, but don't think you're going to get anything professional from me in that way.
No, there's only so much we can offer for £5 a month, and added professionalism is not one of those things. What we will be doing this season, I've already mentioned that we'll be doing a new game. We'll be playing a new game towards the end of the show. But we've also got a new feature to start the show, which is kind of stolen from our guest this week, Geoff Norcott, who, if you listen to his podcast, What Most People Think, which he will talk more about when we play his interview, he starts every week with, I'm not going to say what he calls it. We're going to call our version a shout-out and a call-out. This is where we get to give a shout-out to someone we want to give praise to for the week, and then we're going to call someone out for something that we're less impressed with. And I thought, Stu, to start off the season, I think over the period of lockdown, there's only one thing we can possibly shout out to start off with, and that is the Don's Local Action Group, who have been doing some sterling work for the local community in Wimbledon, around Kingston, Sutton, all the local areas, food banks, helping out schools with electronic equipment and the like. Lots of volunteer hours going into that. So big shout out and well done to the Don's Local Action Group. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. It's been, hey, look, we've all been through really difficult times, and it's amazing. We're moving back to Plough Lane. Yeah, one of the tests before that was how can we support our community, and if there's any way of introducing yourself to the community and showing what you do in difficult times, that was it. When you think about what it's doing now, it's unreal to think that they've done at their level. So yeah, great shout out.
The call out is somewhat randomly the Celtic merchandise outlet. I don't know if you've seen this, Stu.
Okay.
This is a great story. So there is a Celtic fan called Justin who wanted to buy a new Celtic shirt with just the number 10 printed on the back. He didn't want a name printed on the back. He just wanted the number 10. However, using the online ordering system, and this is why automation sucks, and we need to get rid of it, and self-service checkouts and all the like need to go. We need to get back to face-to-face human interaction. But anyway, the online system, there's a space for what name you would want on the back of the shirt, and he didn't want a name, but it wouldn't let him proceed with his order until he put something in the box. So he emailed the Celtic store, asked how he could get around this, and they said, not a problem, just write blank in the space, and then they'll know not to print a name. So what happens when he gets his shirt back, printed with the number 10 on the back of it, above the number, it simply says the word blank.
I haven't heard that. That's hilarious.
There is a picture of this on Twitter. I'll retweet it from the podcast account. Quite incredible.
Well, yeah, do you know what? It's crazy, isn't it? And you want it to be easy to do business with, don't you? In clubs, and we're gonna come across that obviously with the new online shop that we have that Matt Haydock was talking about on our radio show a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, well done, Mr. Blank.
Mr. Blank. I mean, jeez, that's the Scottish for you, though, isn't it? You know, the only word I can say with a Scottish accent is actually the word Scottish. Squattish. Yeah, I'm quite good at that. I tell a lie. That and Alan McGregor. There you go.
Well, it's interesting that Lyle went up to Celtic and Rangers, wasn't he? He was rumoured to be good both of them.
How have you turned this into a Lyle Taylor thing already?
Well, because
it's ridiculous.
It was a Celtic thing, but of course he chose to go to Forest and be, with the Merry Men, and play. I don't know. I was going to say cops and robbers, but it wasn't, was it? What did they do? They were, I don't know. They were shooting arrows at each other, weren't they? And then Merry Men. Let's move on. Yeah.
Do you mean Robin Hood?
That's it.
Maid Marian, all that business.
Nottingham's a lovely city. He'll love it there.
He will. I'm sure Lyle will take to life in Nottingham like a duck to water, or to me to Scottish accents. Anyway, in keeping with the podcast, Stu, some things have changed. Some things will never change because already we are running late.
Sounding great as usual.
We're going to have to cut this next segment right down. We're just going to quickly look at how things are shaping up before the start of the new season. Let's start with the squad. We have made, is that right? 6 at time of recording, 6 new additions. We think we know who the 7th new addition will be. So on my list, you've got Ollie Palmer, who is available, an interview with is available on our Patreon right now. Alex Woodyard, Connell Truman, Shay Alexander, Ethan Chislett, Hayden Roberts, we think, from Brighton and Hove Albion. We're not sure. And the lad from Brentford, Oxenen, who I don't know his first name. How rude of me.
I don't, but he actually got awarded with the Brentford B Player of the Year early this week.
What is his first name, so I don't keep calling him just Oxenen?
Mister.
Well, that's
I don't know what his first name is either. I'm going to struggle.
Have you just assumed his gender, so as I have done?
Yeah. But anyway, that person did get a Brentford B Team Player of the Year. So that's pretty impressive because Brentford, if you remember, have a really unique. They don't have the under-23s; they have their B teams, which play other B teams around, and they play a lot of the big clubs in Europe as well. So to get that is pretty impressive. So I think we've done very well there with our Brentford connection.
Jacko from Brushstrokes. It's Jacko. That is his first name. He has done well to be still playing at his age. I know you said under 23. That's obviously incorrect because I mean Brushstrokes was what 80s. Must be in his 60s now. Oh well done, Jacko. Who else? Who's the standout of those players aside from Jacko from Brushstrokes?
I think there's two. I think Woodyard and Palmer are the two. If push comes to shove, I'll probably go for Woodyard. Simply because of the calibre of, is a Peterborough, played 51 games in their first season, then went to Tranmere and managed to, put them on some good form. And you never know, we might hear a bit more about that at some point in this month. Hint, hint. But I would say push kind of shove, Woodyard would be my signing. I think I might be wrong, but I think he's probably the vice captain at least. He comes with a lot of experience and it's a really, really good signing. And especially if we say the engine room, when we're going to get those rooms, all those words coming out, but we desperately need that. And he's going to be a valuable player for us this season.
Centre midfield, sort of Jake Reeves-esque in terms of getting around the pitch, energy, enthusiasm. That's what we're looking for, isn't it, from him?
Yeah, and you know what? The mad thing is, he's 27. We've done really well. Ollie Palmer, from the top of my head, I think it's 29. We haven't normally when we pick up these types of players, we pick them up at the end of their career. We very rarely pick them up around their golden years, and that's really impressive. Especially if you look at Alexander as well, who had the best stats last season for crosses when he was at Barnet. So we've very much gone and got players that fit into our 3-5-2 and players that we didn't have last year. Ollie Palmer, target man. We didn't really get the right wing-back position sorted. And we've also then got Chislett in, who's a chance. He's very much like a Roscoe, if you look at it. He's one of those that you can probably get 10 kids from non-league and you might get a couple that will hit it. But it's worth a risk, and I think that's a good signing. He might look a little bit lightweight. However, he comes with the same background of playing futsal, which is what, I've forgotten his name, Rob O'Sell played. So he's obviously got his little skills and stuff like that. But it'd be interesting if he adapts. But if he doesn't, it's not a risk. I'd rather take those risks rather than playing safe. So we've done well.
I also like his name. Ethan Chislett sounds like a motorway service station, like off the M4 or something. Pre-season, we've had a lot of wins against non-league teams, and then we lost away at QPR of the Championship. I think this year, more than any other, don't look into anything in pre-season because there's nothing to be learned from us beating Corinthian Casuals and Tunbridge Angels and the like and losing to QPR at Loftus Road. So I think we just wait until we play a competitive game, which will be Oxford in the League Cup next Saturday.
Yes.
That will be an official season opener, and that's where I think we can start to form judgments and opinions of our squad and how it's shaping up. But what an awful fixture list to start with. When we got promoted from League Two, I said it's a bit of a rubbish promotion because there's a lot of teams that you've already played and you sort of get a bit familiar with. Oxford in the League Cup was our first game. Then in the league, it's Northampton, then Plymouth, then Fleetwood. It's all a bit, I'm not really too fussed the fact we won't be able to get to any games in the first month of the season.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but the fixtures come out and I found it very difficult to get excited about any of them because we just don't know. One, we don't know where we're going to be playing in terms of behind closed doors. We don't know. We know Plough Lane's going to be ready late October. But we have no idea. It's been rumoured that 1st October is when crowds could be allowed in. We don't know the percentage. We don't know where we're playing. So it's really, I think, I don't know about you, Nick, but I think we're so excited now about what we see with Plough Lane that realistically, I think I've probably written off the first 2 months, which is dangerous because we could be in the bottom 6. bottom 6, bottom 4, bottom 3 by that time. So we'd hope that the players don't forget it. But I think we all are looking, potentially the first home game could be, well, if we're looking at October, it could be Blackpool or it could be Doncaster Rovers. But I'm sure we're going about Plough Lane at another point because there's a lot to be done before we get the official keys and safety notice.
Are there unofficial keys?
I don't know what happens. Like if you buy a new house, obviously you get the keys, don't you, from the agent? What happens with a football stadium? Because there must be a lot of keys. Like, do you get a spare set?
I imagine so.
Who turns the lights off at night? Where are the lights? It ain't Kings Meadow, is it? Kings Meadow, one lot of lights. This will be like, I don't know. I got really excited, which is sad because I'm not a kid. Well, I ain't like a kid. But the floodlights. I don't know if you've seen it. We've got floodlights on the stand, which is just so exciting. I went there and I must admit I was like a kid. I was like a kid in a chocolate factory. So impressive. I can't wait to be there. I do have a theory though, right? I have a theory that we are planning to get more people into attendance to the ground by the Gallard Flats because I noticed there's a lot of scaffolding. So I've got this feeling that we're going to have loads of people in the scaffolding and great. It could be a great view over there because they're not ready yet, are they? So the scaffoldings will be there. I think we have to be careful on letting people up there.
I think the health and safety executive might have something to say about that.
Who's that?
We shall see. Or just some busybody that everyone gets irritated with. They're much like Watford. Anyway, right. Interview then for the first show of the new season. We spoke to Geoff Norcott. He is a comedian. He's a Wimbledon fan. I'm going to say that thing again at the start of the interview, so I don't need to say it now. I think it's probably about time we just get to it. Enjoy. All right, Geoff Norcott, comedian, podcaster, political commentator, most importantly, Wimbledon fan. Welcome to the 9 Years podcast. We will get on to football matters as soon as we can, really. But first of all, I was listening. There was a podcast of yours that I listened to recently that I was fascinated to speak to you about because there are some links there to some football-related matters we'll get onto. But in fact, before I speak about the exact podcast in which I refer to, just for those listeners that might not be familiar with you, just want to give an overview of your podcast and how it came to be.
Well, so the podcast is called What Most People Think, and I suppose it came to be because there was a period in comedy that's been going on a while where it's dominated by left-wing voices, not just politically, but culturally. So, like comedians tend to be, they're more likely to be vegans, you know what I mean? They're more likely to be right on. So it was just a revolutionary idea, I guess, that you could be somewhere right of centre and have voted Leave, but also, be a decent person and not some kind of Nazi.
I want to know where vegan comedians, how they get the energy to go up on stage.
Well, there's a lot of them. I mean, there's just more with comedians. There are more pound for pound, and whatever the kind of trendy thing is. Like, there's probably more comedians that have acupuncture than normal society. Whatever it is, there's more of them that are into it. Whereas I'm very much a burgers and chips guy, and I'm quite a basic bloke really. And I think it's just being aware that currently, I suppose, a lot of the comedians you see on telly are quite beta male types. You know what I mean? They've got like a lot of neuroses and. They talk about that stuff, which is fun. There's some great people doing that. But I think it's also good to have balance where there's some absolute meatheads like me.
I think balance is the key word because that's the podcast I was referring to was actually one where you spoke with Marcus Brigstock, another comedian.
Yeah.
He obviously being more left of centre, you yourself being more right of centre, and you decided to come together and have a chat in which the left and the right could actually have a discussion without resorting to name calling and throwing insults and anything like that.
It's a beautiful
How did that podcast come about?
Well, so what had happened was I had said something, on Twitter. My stock in trade on Twitter is I like making these throwaway, slightly sarky comments. I mean, like everybody on Twitter, it's a version of your personality that perhaps is a bit more cocky than you would be in real life. So it was something to do with Brexit, and I just got fed up and did a joke, and then Marcus kind of pulled me up on it publicly. And with comedians, those moments are quite tense. Like, it's a big deal when comedians clash on Twitter. All the other comics would be screenshotting that, going, "Oh, have you seen Norcott and Brigstock are getting into?" It's like our equivalent of East Coast, West Coast drive-by shootings. You know what I mean? Like, where we have a little bit sort of a drive-by put down. And I just thought, instead of doing this thing for everyone else's entertainment, why don't we get on a podcast and actually talk like grown-ups, because the thing is, when people get talking, we all have to wind our necks in a little bit, right? Me included. And so yeah, we heard each other out. And, you listen to the podcast, there were bits of it that were a little bit, you could tell that we were both sort of, it was a bit, not tense as such, but we were trying our best to be objective and polite, I suppose.
In terms of, I link that to football in a way because for many years now, obviously, we've before even social media came into it, we had guest books and internet forums where fans would start to go back and forth each other and get into little rows and things like that. But I certainly think that sort of opposition where you couldn't seem to have a conversation with people of different opinions, it seems to have got worse in the last 5 years or so.
Well,
do you think that's...
well, there's something in it though, isn't there? Like tribalism, you do get something out of it. Is it makes you feel validated in who you are, and that's true of football almost more than anything else. Is if you invest in the tribalism and the hatred, sometimes it so that I mean, I think of when we first played that club in Buckinghamshire, and we went over there for the FA Cup game. I don't know if you remember, Jack Midson scored, and I mean, unfortunately, they did go on to win the game, but like the emotion of that goal. Like, that was probably up there with anything. It probably wasn't even a good emotion in some ways. It was like raw anger, fury and rage and joy mixed into one. But that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for what football can sometimes be. I mean, I would always say to any football fans, when they talk about rivalry, it is obviously different with that club because it's not the same as a rivalry. It is completely... it's almost got a geopolitical dimension to it. It's more than just a rivalry. That's what I don't get. Like, people say, Arsenal and Tottenham and stuff like that. You go, you're just slightly different bits of North London. I don't even get why you hate each other. Like, or Liverpool and Everton. Like, you come from the same city. Whereas this is something more fundamental. So there is fun to be had in tribalism, but every once in a while you've got to remind yourself that it is in part a construct. It's a game that we play.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Milton Keynes game. That brings us nicely on. So for those of you who don't know, how did you become a Wimbledon fan? You were born in the area. You went to school at Rutledge, I know that much, but you were born...
So I lived, like the first 14 years of my life, because we lived very close to the ground and we moved very close. So I lived within a 2-minute walk of Plough Lane. I lived on Hayden Park Road, and then we moved... we lived on Queen's Road, then Hayden Park Road, because my family don't move much. And then then we lived at Pitt Crescent, the council estate, just up near Durnsford Road Bridge. So my life was always in the shadow of the floodlights and stuff. And then I started to get into it when I was about sort of 11 or 12. I eventually became a programme seller at the ground. But I took the worst patch, which was the running track inside the ground, which you always sold the least amount of programmes. But what I was allowed to do was, until half time, I was allowed to walk around the pitch while the game was going on. Nice. So if there was a corner, I used to sprint up because I always wanted to be behind the goal. Managed it once, actually. I think it was a John Scales goal against Southampton in a 3-3 draw. But it was partly vanity as well because I wanted to see myself on the ITV goals. I wanted to know that dickhead Elton Wellesby was seeing my face.
I was always behind the goal, to be fair. When I first went, Seegers was the person that got me interested, an absolute fruitcake. And I literally was up against the fence. And I think I just idolised him because it was just, it was Seegers. He was just like...
very Wimbledon, didn't he? There was something about him. I mean, I don't know how old you are yourself, but I remember when he signed, we'd had a bad start to that season. It was 88, 89, so it was the season after we won the Cup. And somehow all the momentum went out of us as a club. I don't know why, but... We started with lower gates the following season. We'd sold a lot of good players. I still don't know why that happened. And we had Simon Tracy was in goal, and then Ron Green, and then Seegers just he completely galvanised the club. And also, let's be honest, he could kick the ball absolutely miles, and that was very Wimbledon, I think.
I think so. Yeah, I'm a couple of years older than you. I literally my first game was 1990. So believe it or not, I actually missed all. I wasn't a glory hunter. I missed all the FA Cup side of it. But you're right. I think Seegers was the first goalkeeper I remember who used to actually roll the ball outside the area, wasn't he? To get extra yardage. Yeah, well, because
Preston had sort of pioneered it, but we hadn't really changed our style of play enough to have a goalkeeper that couldn't do that. So when Seegers came in, it was like, it was a sort of continuity element. But I never know about him as a goalkeeper, because he was quite short. He's about my height, basically. And we used to say that I was another great reflex save. When you look back on him, a lot of them were for the cameras. Like, he really would put he would put on a show, Hans.
It was a Flying Dutchman, wasn't it? That's what he used to sort of say with him and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I remember it took me years to work out behind the goal there. You say, "Big one, Hans," and it took me ages to realise that was a porn reference. I just thought it was completely, and everyone always used to laugh afterwards, and they used to do it in this sort of like North European accent. But he was great. Like, and he had that slightly, mad. The thing that we love at the club is that slightly demented. If you go forward to Aaron Ramsdale, there's something about mad goalkeepers that's written into the fabric of the club.
So who are your sort of heroes, idols when you were growing up, Wimbledon-wise? Who did you relate with?
Well, it's not related. I don't know why. I was really into Dean Holdsworth. I don't know, because he had a bit of a playboy look about him. He's good looking, but I also thought he was a really good player. You know what I mean? He had a lot going for him. He could. I always liked strikers that could really head the ball. But he had he scored goals from distance as well. In fact, not that dissimilar from Fashanu. The thing with Fash is that everyone always remembers the violence, and there was plenty of it. But you look at some of Fashanu's best goals. Like, you could have a compilation tape of him that would really surprise people, because they always remember him kind of like rushing the goalkeeper and bundling it in from like 2 yards. But like those goals he scored against Newcastle, he scored a chip against Palace. You know what I mean? Like, there was plenty of great Fash goals over the years.
Definitely, you're right. I remember the Palace one. I also remember the one away at Swindon. I think Ian Wright had done. I think Ian Wright had done something similar before that, and then Fash done a similar. And they
we never got the coverage, though, did we? Like, we scored some. Like, Robbie Earle scored a goal at Anfield. It was from about 40 yards, and it was just like suddenly it was a freak goal for Wimbledon. You know what I mean? And I always remember at the time of that Liverpool team, I always remember the dilemmas. What was the difference between a long ball and a long pass? Mm-hmm. Right. So if Wimbledon have whacked it long, but sometimes like Liverpool, when they played out from the back, they would just toe punt it out. But we used to play some good football in the final third of the pitch, and I like long ball football. I always have, because it's always interesting. When it goes wrong, it looks terrible because you have virtually no possession and you don't get to play any football. When it goes right, it's so exciting because you essentially lay siege to the opposition for long periods at a time.
Yeah, that's my style of football. That's my memories. And I look at the Premier League now, and it's a world away from what it was like when we were in there. And I only get to go back to the Selhurst days. I wasn't even at Plough Lane days. But do you watch much modern Premier League these days? Does it appear to you? It doesn't seem to be as much fun anymore.
I've got no interest in top flight football at all. No. I don't care about it at all. I haven't watched Match of the Day in maybe 10 years. And weirdly, when Wimbledon got to like League One level, I don't know, that felt like a good... It's weird because you've got to sort of have the aspiration to go up. Mm. But I don't know, man. Like, I like that level. I feel like that you still play like the smaller clubs with the weird grounds, like kind of Accrington, and clubs like that, Fleetwood or whatever. And then then you get bigger teams that are sort of like day tripping down from the Championship. And it sort of reminds me of... I think everyone talks about there was that season a few years ago when there was like Sheffield United, when there was Oldham, Millwall, and it was almost like a reunion from the early 90s. I like football at that level. Maybe I have become an old fart, but there's nothing in it for me, the top flight. And also, the players are just clearly boring people as well. Like, we were lucky that we had people who were good footballers, but good characters. I mean, like, who is going to want to read the autobiographies of the current crop of young players? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just... No interest there. They go, I remember the day that my Dr. Dre Beats headphones malfunctioned.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that the Premier League has done is just become so big and so overwhelming. And I had a little bit of a mini rant on Twitter the other day with Man City paying £41 million for a centre-half. Now, is there, given your political leanings, but is there room for football, just in the context of football, to take perhaps a more socialist approach with how we do things?
You've come across like a real contradiction in me, is that in my football is the socialist bit of my character. Like, I support a club, I very much believe in it being fan-owned, the kind of financial excess of the Premiership I find repugnant, and there is definitely like an uneasy sort of alignment of views there, because that's what, right wing's supposed to be about, free market, the market will decide. But in football, I don't think the market really does decide. It's almost more like crony capitalism, whereby things, there is, because they can constantly underwritten by debt, aren't they? Like, they're always sacking managers, they're always paying like 5 managers' salaries at any one go. All these things are essentially unsustainable. And the fans are constantly, like, I often say to my mates, like you cannot tell me that you get the, I think there's a lot of blokes that followed Premiership football for years, and they just fear that if they stop following it, they wouldn't have anything to talk about. But I say to them time and time again, what are you getting out of this? You know what I mean? What is in it for you? What do you love about it? Yeah, the skill level's gone up, but other than that, You know, the game has utter contempt, and it's underwritten by a bubble, which is the overseas kind of TV rights money.
And when that disappears, then...
Or you know, what if those fans will suddenly decide that the Bundesliga, you know, they don't... I mean, EPL, as they will call it, is very successful at the moment, but it's not guaranteed. And also, when you're invested in a club on a sort of tenuous basis like that, all you need is that club to have a few fallow years. What if some of the big four have fallow years? They'll move on to something else. They'll be supporting like the best basketball team or the best La Liga team. So I think, you know, the happiest times in my life as a Wimbledon fan were always like mid-table obscurity. Like, I think that it's a beautiful place to be. Just stay exactly where you are. A couple of wins, unexpected wins away from home against the big boys. You know what I mean? Like just a little bit of the season where you think, oh, we might go down or we might go up. I mean, there was that song, wasn't there? We're not going down and we're not going.
Yeah.
Those were the glory days. Like the idea that we could just sort of just sit back and have a few days out towards the end of the season. Unfortunately, the last few years, everything's going down to the wire, and it's been quite stressful to follow.
Yeah, do you get down to Kings Meadow? Did you get down to Kings Meadow much over the last? Have you been able to? Because you live up. Is it Cambridge way now? You live up.
I live up in Cambridge. Yeah, I mean, the problem is like with Saturdays when I'm gigging and with the job that I do, I'm away a lot. So if I'm then to say like on Saturday daytimes, if you're gigging in the evening, it's sometimes the one bit of time you can get with the family. So if I then go, I'm heading off. You know, what I do is whenever the fixtures come out, I look at my comedy diary and I look at any games that are in any way close to where I'm gigging. So I've been to some away games and stuff, but yeah, I don't get to games that much. I mean, I follow when it works as being, you know, but that was a real shot in the arm for my support of the club because I could keep up with just who the squad are. Because, you know, in the lower leagues, people who support big clubs don't realise this, but the turnover of playing staff is so chronic. You know, you don't know who people are from one week to the next.
Yeah, that did surprise me, I must admit, about lower league football, because I think when I was much younger, lower league football, like in the days when Fulham were a Division 2 side, for example, they seem to have the same squad of players for about 8 years in a row.
Yeah,
but,
but now, you get these players, you know, and there's a lot more, there's a much bigger culture of loan players coming in. Like I can remember back when we loaned, who was it? John Harley or someone, and like it was a real big loan this Chelsea, but that's just a default thing now that happens. But then it was just this curiosity. We had this Chelsea player suddenly play left back for us.
And you mentioned you got a young son. Are you bringing him up?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what it is like, but he's into it. And I think the good thing is the song. You know, yes, but it's almost like if you wanted to indoctrinate someone, you just can keep going with it. And when I took him at his first game, I mean, he was probably a bit too young for it, but it was a Southend game, just for Christmas or around Christmas, I think. And he straight out, we got out of the car and we were with the fans walking the ground, and he started chanting like real like belting it out on the way there. And when we were sitting in the, I was sitting with Ivor, and obviously it's a bit quieter in that bit of the ground singing wise, but he was really like, he's annoyed that people weren't singing, and he was trying to drum it up. But at half time he's like, okay, let's go, because he's a 4-year-old boy, you know. So we did have to go, but luckily for him, in his mind, his first game was a 1-0 win against Southend, but we all know it was a last-minute penalty, so I'll break it to him at the right age.
You talk about crowds. We are hoping that in October we will be allowed back into football stadiums. Are you planning on getting down to Plough Lane for the first games if you can?
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about like a lot of people. For me as well, because of my age and because I lived in that area, the idea that I can once again, you know, walk down the Havens Road to a football match, I mean, it gives me goosebumps right now. I said to anybody, if you want to go and see loads of grown men crying, you know, go whatever that first home game is. It's going to be amazing, because it just seemed like there was so long where it just didn't seem feasible. And to have football in it. So yeah, I mean, I don't care what you know. It would have. There's no gig that really could keep me away from being there that first day. And it's just a little bit of information. I've you know, like they do the food before the games and stuff. They have like the corporate dining thing before the Milton Keynes game, the one we won at home 2-0. He asked me to do a bit of comedy to break the tension, and I was one of the most nervous I've ever been. Neil Hardley come in and gave the team news and stuff, and then I had to do a bit of comedy. It was only like 7 to 10 minutes, but I managed to get a few laughs. And I do think that I played some sort of role in that 2-0 victory.
There's our exclusive headline for the podcast. Geoff Norcott takes credit for us beating Milton Keynes.
Yeah, no, it's nothing to do with the. I mean, that was a good one. Just beating them, and then we haven't had the best record against them since we come back in. But like, just winning on that occasion, you know. Just wish we never had to play them again. Really. It's just there's no joy in it. Even when we beat them, it's just like the feelings are all. I just don't want to ever play them at football again.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you were saying, because you're right. You know, that game at Milton Keynes when we lost 3-1 in the cup. Sorry, 2-1 in the cup. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I felt angry the whole way through. Even when I got there, I got on the coach, and the worst thing for me was, and I'm not a football thugger by any stretch, but you know what, you wanted a row, but the thing was, they were just kids mocking you. And they were, and you couldn't even swear back at them, because you think, oh, they're kids. You know what I mean? They don't.
I agree. You brought outside me. Like, my missus was really, really shocked. Like when they scored that late goal and stuff, I said, we best just go now. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I felt like this fury, because it's having something taken away from you in life, isn't it? Like, you're feeling disinherited. It's a very impotent feeling, and you know what men are like. They feel impotent. It manifests in rage. No one needs to go fucking deep, but you know, it's I didn't like that thing. Then I think we played them in the League Cup again not long after. Yeah. And then it was only like the hardcore that went, and that was even more naughty. I think, like, there was it felt rancid. I'll be honest.
Yeah, we were there.
I didn't appreciate any of that. So, you know, when we beat them 2-0 at home, it was a good thing. They were, you know, it was on our patch and stuff. But it'd be good if we could improve our record. But it's hard, isn't it? Like, this people say, is it the pressure of a derby? Again, the pressure on the players is more than a derby. It's not what they're taking into that, you know. But yeah, the real triumph in the long run is our existence, and you know, and another chapter in that is having our own club. I mean, it's just when you think about it, like, to within that short space of time to not only exist, but to be playing at the same level, but to also have our own ground. But then, of course, it brings up this moral dilemma of, if this hadn't happened, would we have ever gone back to Plough Lane? It's a tricky one, man. We've still been at Sellers. You know what I mean? It's tricky.
That's a hell of a subject to unpack. We will do that one day. We could do a what if episode. What if?
Well, it's like, you know, I'm watching The Man in the High Castle on Amazon Prime, and it's about 2 concurrent history lines after the Second World War, and you have to just accept that, maybe this was at some point in our futures. But I mean, it's never forgive, never forget. But just deep down, accept that maybe this was the only way we would have got back to Plough Lane.
You're right, though, because I remember, you know, going back when I first started supporting Wimbledon, you know, no one really liked us. They hated us. We kept beating people up, Vinny, Bash, and then we started obviously back in the combined counties, and it took me a little while to get used to people liking us. I don't know. I
like a bit of needle, and I agree. I think it's easily forgotten now. A lot of people say, "I do like Wimbledon," and people pretend they liked us then. They didn't, man. Like, we were disliked, and also weirdly, we were disliked because we didn't have many fans. And you think that's really weird. And the story is such a good story. We were kind of pilloried, and people would mock us for saying we got no fans. But we just beat you. Like, I mean, now that seems like almost a Disney-esque story, but then it wasn't liked. I mean, the season after we won the cup, a lot of people forget that we got to the quarter-final that year as well. And I remember we got knocked out by Everton, and the next day in the Daily Mail there was a cartoon, and it was of a vicar saying, "And thank God for finally knocking the Wimbledon out of the FA Cup." We were hated, but like you say, Millwall had. That's why I think we've always had a weird affinity with Millwall, because Millwall are hated because of their fans. We were hated because of our players, like, because of our playing culture, you know.
Yeah, and a little bit of jealousy, I'm sure. Some of the bigger clubs didn't like these little upstarts getting one over them. Geoff, thank you very much for your time.
No worries. It's good to finally chat. Sorry for being such an absolute tit in the organisation. It's quite spectacular, I think.
We were going to try and not mention it for the listeners, but, you know, you can stitch yourself up. It's fine.
Incompetent on my behalf, but look, man, it's great to be on the podcast, and it's great what you boys do. You know, it's like these days, the things that you like, you just want to think about them and listen about. It's like cricket, football, films. So it's nice to have a podcast out there that you know, is for Wimbledon fans, and I hope to see people at New Plough Lane.
Before you go, we do have, as a guest on the show, we do have 10 quick either-or questions to put to you.
Oh, okay.
Just the first answer that comes into your head.
Yeah, go on. Either one, let's do it.
So, VAR, yes or no?
No.
Mashed potato or boiled potato?
Mashed potato. Come on. Psychopath would go for boiled potato.
Monica or Rachel?
Well, Rachel, yeah.
Geoffrey Howe or Geoffrey Chaucer?
Well, Geoffrey Chaucer. Yeah. Fucking legend. I don't know if I'm allowed to say on this one.
No, that's fine.
Red sauce or brown sauce?
Well, without context, I would reject the question. I'm sorry.
Bacon roll.
Red sauce. Well, again, what kind of psychopath? But yeah, red sauce bacon roll.
There you go. Minority Report or The Cook Report?
Minority Report, completely underrated film. I still use that as an example of a number of things, not least when I'm trying to work two screens.
Okay, H or H?
H.
Would you rather go on a weekend in Tamworth with Cameron Diaz or Barbados with David Cameron?
I'll go Barbados with David Cameron there. You know what I mean? We're gonna get our own beach. That's nice. But you could get that within Cameron Diaz. Look, the truth is, she just strikes me as a bit annoying. Like, so as a bloke, you think, yeah, woohoo, Cameron Diaz, but she would do my nutting after a while. Whereas David Cameron, I just think it would be quite basic company, but it'd be all right for the week. Do you know what I mean? He's quite a neutral sort of bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, you might get some little tidbits of stuff. You never know.
Yeah.
Okay. When you make a sandwich, do you put butter or margarine on both slices of bread or just one?
Well, first of all, I'm not putting margarine on anything. Both slices of bread. Well, both slices. Does anyone not do that?
Apparently so.
Yeah.
We have Wimbledon fans that it's news to them that most people do both. They only do one.
It's just like finding out, like that Japanese soldier that was still fighting the war like 70 years on. It's almost like finding out that, like the absolute paradigm shift that you've just laid on me.
It's like the Wizard of Oz when the curtain drops and you see, oh, this is how it should be. And then finally, when you're making a cup of tea, Geoff, do you put the bag in the mug first or do you put the milk in the mug first?
Well, I mean, I'm a sane, functioning adult, so obviously bag in. And
Absolutely.
Anybody that doesn't do that is either American or mentally unwell.
Couldn't have said it any better ourselves.
There you go. Oh, give you something to cancel me for at the end there. Just right-wing comedian mocks the mentally ill.
You've cottoned onto us. You've spotted our big plan here. This is what it was all along. There you go. Geoff, thank you very much again. Where can people check you out if they want to listen to your stuff?
Oh, yeah, at the moment, the main thing I'll be pushing people towards is the podcast. I'm enjoying doing it. If you just want to get a slightly different sort of political orientation in your comedy and topical news, then, get involved and, get on the Patreon. You know what I mean? Finance my lavish lifestyle of holidays with David Cameron and Mark Ketchup. Yeah.
Sounds like heaven to me. Right, Geoff, thanks again. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you at Plough Lane in a few months' time.
Cheers, chaps. Take care. Bye.
Huge thank you to Geoff for taking the time to speak to us. And as he said there, check out his podcast, What Most People Think. Google it. Top man, top podcast. And we'll see him at a game in the very near future. Talking about games, Stu, we have a new one to play.
Oh, dear. I don't like this because you don't give me any sort of hints as to what it is, but I know it's going to be a game that's going to make me look stupid, which I know ain't that difficult.
I don't think it's going to this season. I think you're going to like this one. So, it's not called after a player, this one, because I couldn't think of one to make it work. I'm not even sure the name I've given it works, but I've gone for Whose Nine Is It Anyway?
I like that.
Music there as well. So basically, the aim of this game is I'm going to give you a number, for example, 33, and then I will give you 3 seasons, and I want you to tell me which player wore that number in those 3 seasons. So if I said 33 and then season 2016-17, you would say...
Oh, Taylor.
There we go. That's not the game. This week, we are going to start... I thought an appropriate number to start this game with would be the number 19. Paul Hardcastle would approve.
Okay.
Stu, who wore the number 19 shirt in the very first season of Squad Numbers ever back in 1993-94?
Oh, we're going back that far. 19. Oh, crikey. Who would have worn that shirt? Peter Fair?
I won't tell you who it is just yet. I'll give you the next season. The next season would be our relegation from the Premier League season, 1999-2000.
Same number?
Yep.
Oh, great. 19. Who picks a shirt number 19? It can't have been anyone decent. That's probably just... Who would have worn 19? Carl Court.
Okay. All right. Final one. Our first season back in the Football League, 2011-12 season.
Wow.
I will say at this juncture that part of the club's recent marketing drive included a brochure that listed us as the 36th most famous football club in the world. And I think it's for players like the three we're talking about here that got us so high up that ranking. They really are world-class names.
I really can't think of who would have been 19. I'm trying to think you might have done it deliberately to fool me and not something as obvious. I'm going to go for Sammy Moore. It's just random.
It's not bad. So your three answers then: Peter Fear, Carl Court, Sammy Moore. How many do you think you got right?
Absolutely none.
Yeah, 0, I'm afraid. The three names are, in chronological order, Stuart Castledine.
Oh dear.
Walid Badir.
Do you know what? I really thought it might be Walid. I don't know why I thought that. Maybe because I might have remembered seeing a 19 on the back of his top, but I don't know.
That might be why. But ironically, Badir had impeccable hearing. And then finally, Kieran Djali.
Wow, the Palace. I was going to say the Palace player that we got. We don't get much success, do we, from players from Palace?
The only one I can think of is Andy Roberts, who I think might have gone on to sign for Norwich. I'm not sure.
I think so.
No one ever mentioned it. But anyway, that's the first round of our new game. So let's know what you thought of that. That is Whose 9 Is It Anyway? That'll be making returns. Stu, how did you find that? It was a tricky one to start with because 19 is an uncommon number. Really, you want like 1 or 10.
Yeah, do you know what? When I was younger, I used to know all the squad numbers for most of like Wimbledon and stuff like that. But as I've got older, I've sort of struggled. I do well now to pick the squad numbers for the current team.
Do you know I know all the squad numbers for the current team?
Because you've probably got them listed up there.
No, they go from 1, 2, 3, all the way through to 37.
That's a lot of players. Like in my day, you've done well to have 11 players and 1 sub. You know,
well, that was the way things used to be. It used to be simpler, didn't it?
Yeah, nowadays, I don't know about you, but I've been watching some of the old games because I think everyone's done that when they miss their football. And seeing like 1 sub, and then of course you watch a real game behind closed doors with FIFA sounds, and they've got 5 subs. Madness.
Oh, well, that is it actually, Stu, for this week. That is us done.
Oh,
so yeah, that's it.
Game over.
Thank you very much for joining me.
No problem at all.
Thank you for listening. Please remember, as I said, patreon.com/9wireless podcast. Sign up now, get that interview with Ollie Palmer immediately, and then there'll be more things dropping. God, I sound like some like DJ or I don't know, some Radio 1 presenter who's like 19 years old. There'll be more stuff being uploaded for your viewing, listening pleasure in the coming week. But that is it for now. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 = 4. We shall speak to you again next Friday.